Hey folks, Jim Denham here. Hope you're doing well. I want to share something with you today. It's been kind of interesting. In my YouTube stream, I watch a lot of YouTube, and sometimes I'll look at tutorials, sometimes it'll just be interesting stuff. But for some reason, a lot of people these days have started either sharing new or in their past stream, they're starting to share something about the Orton effect. The Orton effect, if you're not familiar with what it is a post-processing effect that you can apply to your images that gives kind of a glow with a little bit of brightness to it. It's not complicated, but it seems like everybody's got a little bit different way of applying it. It was developed back in the film days where a guy named Orton would actually he took two different exposures and would blend them together in the darkroom to give this kind of effect. But now, even in like Luminar from Skylum, they actually have a preset where you can go in and click it and it'll apply the effect and you can customize it from there. But I thought, I've been using this type of an effect for many years now. As a matter of fact, back in the HDR days, my buddy Justin Kern shared in one of his blog posts, gosh, it's probably been 6-7 years ago, on how to create the Orton effect in Photoshop. And I've been using that method and I've just grown used to it. So I thought, well, you know what, since everybody else is sharing theirs, I might as well share mine. Even though it's similar, it's a little bit different, so maybe you can get something out of it. You might like it better than what you see out there, and then again, you may not like it at all. So there you go. But anyways, I thought I'd share it. So what we've got here is I'm in Photoshop, and this is an image that I took in the Smoky Mountains back earlier in November. And it happens to be very similar to one that I published, but I just wanted to use this for example. I've already did a little bit of editing, just like some exposure editing and white balance, things like that in Lightroom, and then export it here into Photoshop. So all we've got is a background layer in the image. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the background layer, and then we're going to duplicate this. We're going to make 3 duplicate layers. In the Mac it's a Command J, and on Apple it's Control J, but you just 1, 2, 3. So I've got 3 layers here, and then what I typically do, and you don't have to do this either way, I'll go down here and I'll click on this file down here that creates a group, create a new group. And what I'll do is I'll take those 3 layers by themselves before doing anything to them, and I will move them up into the group. So now the 3 layers are in a group. Alright, that way we can see exactly what this group does. And let's see if I can get the name change here. There we go. We'll call this Orton. Alright, so now the way this works is we'll turn off the top 2 layers and work on the bottom layer first. The first thing you want to do in this is you want to apply the blur, and like I said, it applies the effect gives a glow to the image, and the way it gets that glow is it starts with applying a blur, and the blur you'll apply is up here in the filter, blur, and then you'll go down here to Gaussian blur. Whoops, I hit the wrong one. Crap. Hang on. Sorry. Go down here and blur, Gaussian blur. A little quick with the mouse. Now when you apply a Gaussian blur, I don't know what the rule of thumb for people is. Some people like to just apply small amounts, some people like to apply a lot. How much you apply really has an effect on this procedure, this method. Typically I try to stay around the same megapixels as the camera that I use. Mine's a 24 megapixels, so I'm going to keep it somewhere around 20 to 24 megapixels, or 20 pixels rather. So there you go. So I've applied the blur. You can play around with this however you like, right? There's no set amount. So I've applied the blur. Now you can see the entire image is blurred. So that's no good, right? The way we apply this blur is through a multiply blending mode. So you go up here to your blending mode and you hit I did it again. Multiply. I'm really bad with that mouse click today. Now you can see what applying that through a multiply blending mode does. It's really beautiful, and this is something I really like. It darkens the image up, it really brings out some saturation, and there's that softness, and through this water all throughout the image it's really soft. Now obviously it's too dark because we've lost a lot of detail in these rocks and everything, but you can see the base here is really beautiful, almost like a Kincaid painting type thing. So okay, so that's what we've done on our first layer, and it's looking really dark and really it has a really big glow to it. Second layer is going to be very simple. We'll turn it on and it'll cover that first layer up, and we're back to the original image. The only thing we're going to do to this layer is we're going to apply a screen mode, blending mode. Now the screen blending mode brightens everything up. Okay, so that's all it's really doing is brightening it. If you toggle the first layer on and off, you can see just how much it would brighten without it. So with the first layer on the multiply blur layer, you can see that it really brings that darkness out, and especially in the highlights it's really bright. Okay, so that's all we do on this layer. The last layer, the top layer, we're going to apply a little bit of edge sharpening to it using a high pass filter. So we go up to Filter, Other, High Pass. Now, I've seen in the past when looking at how you apply a high pass filter, you can go over the top with this thing, right? Because what you look at, if you look up here on the image in this screen, black and monochrome screen, gray look, you can see where it's sharpening, and you can see it's already starting to get a little bit of that artifact type edge to it. So you don't want to go over the top, because if you take this up really high, yeah, look, it gets really crazy. Okay, so you want to apply this very sparingly, and it's just going to sharpen your edges. I usually keep this within 3 to 4 pixels. Okay, that's just standard for me. I look at how much it puts on it, and that's what I'll do. And obviously we can't leave this in the high pass filter in the normal mode, so we will go up here, and the blending mode we'll use for this is soft light. And there you go, you've got your 3 levels, 3 layers already applied. Now if you'll click on the group eye right there, it'll show you what it looks like turned off and on. And you can see you've got a glow to the image, especially in the water and in the highlights, because the highlights are quite bright. Now personally, if you caught anything when we applied the multiply layer on the blur mode, you kind of get from me that I like the darker look to an image, which I do. The reason that I put these 3, and I like these 3 having individual layers for the application, is now I can go in and I can change each one of these individually to get the look that I want. And typically I do not change the high pass layer. What I'll do is I'll grab the screen layer, which is the middle layer, and I will lower the opacity. Typically I will come down to about 20-30%. Obviously that's too far, although it looks pretty doggone good. Now one other thing you could do is you could leave the opacity up, apply a layer mask to this, and then put it where you want it, or mask out where you don't. You could do that, but I typically don't. What I'll do from here is I'll go down to my first layer, and I will bring that opacity down a little bit to where it stays a little bit on the darker side, but we still have got plenty of, it's well exposed, and you can see the histogram up here. I'm not blocking anything out. I'm a far cry from having any highlights blown out either, and I really like this a lot better. And then we could raise that screen up just a hair, but this gets to where you're liking it, right? So here's the before the Orton effect is applied, and here's after, and it just really gives a beautiful glow. You can see a little bit more saturation up here, and the shadows are a little bit darker. It's just really a beautiful effect, and that's how I apply it. And I use this quite a bit. As a matter of fact, I even have an action I created for this in my Photoshop up here that I can apply, because I do use it quite a bit. And obviously you can go in and apply other edits. What you want to do from here is you want to click on your group, and then Shift Option Command E will do a merge layer, to where you can start doing other edits to that without killing the Orton, that you can go back and adjust. So that's it. That's the Orton effect per Jim Denham, a la Justin Kern years ago, and that's how I apply it. If you got any questions about it, leave a comment down below. If not, if you find it useful, good. If you don't, that's fine too. Just remember, you can go into like Luminar. If you have Luminar, it's got a preset in there already set up to where all you got to do is one click and then move a slider, and it'll apply how much you want in it. So, hope it's helpful, and we'll see what else we can get into on the next one. Thanks. See you later.